Aloha and welcome to Heart of the Matter. And welcome, Chloe. And yeah, just before we get started and stuff, I just wanted to sort of share a little bit about what's going on. Obviously, as you can see, I'm on the bed at the moment and stuff, and been a very interesting time for me and stuff. And that, as I found out that I have a hernia in my groin, it's very, very painful. And yeah, so I'm sort of waiting at the moment for the process of going in for an operation. So that's where I'm at with that at the moment. But it's a good time because when you go through these experiences and stuff, and that it's part of where we grow, and it's gonna be time to sort of stop and to reevaluate things in my life. And it's all part of the experience, life is a journey, life is a story, and yeah, it's giving that time to really stop and just look at things in my life. And there's a few things that I need to sort of reevaluate and change and stuff. So it's time for a spring clean. That's how I see things. So that's where I'm at. But yeah, just wanted to say just a quick thank you to all the people that have given me support and shared kind words, including yourself, Chloe, Ahmed, Jay, Josh, Joy, and a few others as well. So thank you. And yeah, that's thank you to the viewers. And I just hope you enjoy this podcast tonight with me and Chloe. And yeah, if Chloe, you'd like to share your situation as well, it'd be which I'm sure you're quite happy to do as well. So before we
Yeah,
get
of
started.
course. Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, namaste, everybody. Thank you for having me back, Kelvin.
Uh,
I'm also in a bed. Um, I broke my ankle almost 4 weeks ago now, and I actually broke it trampolining with my son. So, as I have mentioned before, I love playing with my kids. I think it's so important that we
mm,
play. And trampolining was something that me and my son really enjoyed doing together. We're lucky enough to have a nice sized garden with a quite a big trampoline. And usually it goes quite smoothly, we bounce around, we have fun. But on this particular day, we kind of lost our rhythm a bit bouncing together. And there's always a risk, unfortunately, on trampolines. I know that trampolines are quite a common place to to get injuries. So yeah, unfortunately for me, it happened about 4 weeks ago. I landed rather than my left foot landing flat, I landed on
mm,
my toes and the ball of my foot. So
yeah.
kind of all of my weight was put on that part of my body, and obviously it's quite a delicate part, and it twisted. The bone broke. I knew it was broken because I heard it. Um, yeah, I've had to slow down a lot. I'm usually a very busy person,
Mm,
but now I can't drive, and I can't do all of the usual things I do with my kids or for myself. I'm still, getting out and about. I'm lucky enough to have amazing support and friends visit me. You came to visit me, Kelvin, I think not long after it happened.
mm,
So I'm not kind of stuck in my house, and I am carrying on as much as possible as normal. And
mm,
but also, like you said, it when these kind of things happen to us, when we have to slow down, it does give us time to reflect. I've had
yeah.
to work on letting quite a lot of things go, like
Mm,
the standard of how I keep my house. I mean, I'm not a clean freak by any means, but I do have standards, and I've had to kind of let them go a bit. And
mm, mm,
yeah, and other things which are a bit more personal, which I've had to kind of let go of or work through. So it's a challenging time, but yeah, you've already said it, Calvin. We During these times is when we really can grow and develop
mm,
ourselves.
mm,
And
mm,
also for my children, for them it's not an easy time, but they're learning, a bit more responsibility. And when it happened, my kids were fantastic. They kind of took charge of the situation, and they helped me off the trampoline. And, Elwood called my parents to, so they could come and take me to the hospital. My daughter packed a little bag for me with drinks and snacks and things. So it's given them that opportunity to, you know, to be caring and more responsible. So It's not easy, but we're all learning a lot from this.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, to add on to that as well, is it's like you said, when something comes on, it does, slow you completely down to sort of almost a grinding sort of stop. It does give you that time to reflect on things, and like you said, and to such, for me, there's certain things that I need to let go of, and and where I focus my attention, more and stuff like that. So yeah, there's some big changes on the way for me. That's how I feel. And yeah, it's just for some people, it's they have an accident, but they don't think too much about maybe those sort of things. But I believe those things happen for a reason, and I believe that nature can be destructive at times and stop us in our tracks, and stuff, and that for reasons, and stuff.
Yeah.
So, I look at this as a good thing, even though that might not feel great, it's a good thing and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Everything happens for a reason. And
Absolutely.
I have to admit, at first I was very frustrated. It took me several days, to let go of that frustration of not
Mm,
being able to do things and, be busy and exercise and do this. But now I've come into a place of like gratitude
mm,
and just feeling so blessed that I have a house with a garden. So even though I can't go for a walk or a run every day, I can go and sit in my back garden, and
mm,
have a cup of tea and watch the kids playing and,
yeah.
grateful for all the people that are supporting me in so many different ways, even just
Mm,
the really small things, like a
mm,
little
mm,
message, how are you
exactly.
doing, makes a huge difference.
Mm,
So
mm, mm,
I, I'm always very mindful of being grateful for what we do have, but it took me a little while, yeah, to let go of that frustration and,
mm,
oh God, how could I have been so silly? And,
mm,
you know,
mm,
and even my son felt a little bit of guilt at first. Oh, it was my fault. I bounced too high. I said, stop, stop. It
mm,
happened. It was an accident. And
mm,
actually, I'm glad it was me and not you. That's what I said to him because,
mm, mm,
I'm, you never want to see our children suffering and in pain. So
mm,
it could
mm.
have been him, but it wasn't. It was for me, and that happened for a reason.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Wow. Well, it's just been nice to sort of share life,
mm,
share the real stuff, experiences, and it's great that we can just be on here and just be us, that's what I always, say, it's better to be just to be you, rather than
mm,
try and be something you're not, so,
mm,
and this is really where, I'm at in my life, and you're at in your life, as well. And life is about experience, and yeah, we can read lots of books and stuff. And I'm not saying that's good for us, If anything, it's allowed me that time to get my head more into books.
yep,
I'm spending a lot less time on Telegram now. And so, yeah, it feels like things are shifting for me into a different area of my life and stuff, yeah, so it's all good, and yeah, and let the journey commence, and it's a
yep.
wonderful to be on this beautiful story that we're all in, and you can't get that from a textbook,
No,
or from a
you
book.
can't.
You can
No.
read books, and yeah, they're great, but it is about the experience. That's the most important thing. There's a difference between sort of the head knowledge and what I call the heart knowledge, so
Mm,
for sure, for sure. On that note, anyway, I suppose we're here to do this next podcast and stuff. We're doing part 4, so going to do with children, and Chloe giving her great insights and experiences and stuff that she's gained over the years. So thank you, Chloe, and please share away, our viewers. Thank you.
okay. So yeah, it is a huge topic, raising children and, passing on the knowledge to our children. But what's been on my mind really the last few days particularly is the importance of connection. And last time I mentioned, all these barriers and obstacles that have been put in our way to make parenting more difficult, because there are people at the moment who have the power to, to put those obstacles in place, and they don't want families to have that deep connection. So, once you're aware of that, I think you understand the importance of it even more. I think we have, we just assume that because we have children, we have a connection and attachment and we love them. And yes, to some extent that's true. However, there's been so many things put in place to try and sever that connection, that it's crucial, and that we really understand the things that we're being told which are preventing that connection from happening. So last time I spoke a lot about the very early days, the birth and the breastfeeding, and how that situation has become, it's become very medicalized. So I think today I'll talk a little bit about the early days. I want to just add a little bit more on keeping that attachment and connection with our babies, but then also how we can continue that as they grow. Because so many of the things which are beneficial to keep that strong attachment and connection with our children are actually deemed as like dangerous in our society, but by the mainstream. So one example of that would be like bed sharing with your children, and it's a topic which I don't think it's been in the mainstream a lot in very recent years. There's been other agendas and stories that have kind of taken the limelight. But I remember, particularly when my children were younger, I mean, maybe I was more attuned to it then, but there was often these horror stories about, babies sleeping in beds with their parents, and babies dying as a result of it. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but it's not the fact that the children or the babies were in the bed with the parents that caused the death. It would have been some sort of suffocation from, too many covers over the baby, or overheating if the baby or the toddler was overdressed. So they just put the cause as the fact, that the parents were sleeping with the children, which has then put fear into so many parents, about, oh no, we mustn't bed share. Now, for me, as an adult, even, I think that there's many adults that don't even like going to bed by themselves. They might find it, if they've got a partner and maybe their partner goes away for work and they're used to having somebody sleep with them, and then they suddenly have to sleep alone. It's difficult for them, so even as adults, it can be quite difficult, to be alone in a room in the dark, let alone for babies or children. So bed sharing, it's been seen as it's been kind of painted to be this thing that is dangerous. And also people talk about how, oh, the mum and the dad need that space, that's like the parent space. That's where the parents have their space and their time together. Of course, parents need time together to connect as well, as well as the children. But your children are only young once, and there are other ways or other places that parents can connect and have that connection. It doesn't have to be in a bed. There's still many cultures nowadays where bed sharing, it isn't deemed as a dangerous thing. It is seen as normal, and in these type of cultures, I think Japan is one of them, although that's probably starting to change now with the influence of the Western culture. But in more remote parts of the world, more probably sort of Asia, South America, bed sharing is quite a normal thing, and in these cultures they have less babies dying from SIDS, because actually when a baby is close to particularly the mother.
Sorry, just you said the word, what was the word? SIDS. SIDS. What? So
SID,
could you explain that for our viewers? Yeah.
of course,
Thank
yeah.
you.
So
Thank you.
SIDS is sudden infant death syndrome,
Okay. Right. Okay.
and it's where a baby dies apparently of unexplained causes.
Okay. Okay.
There is always a cause. There's always a reason
Mm,
why somebody dies, whether it's a baby or not. Now, in the Western culture, it's kind of said there's been things in the mainstream in the past that have sort of said that babies are more likely to die of this if they are sleeping with their parents, when in actual fact the opposite is true, because you look at cultures where families share a bed together, and there's actually a lower rate of this happening with babies, because sleeping close to your baby means that you can, be aware of them. So if your baby was to stop breathing, then the mother, especially if the mother's breastfeeding, the mother would be more in tune with that, and she would realize, and she would be right there with her baby. Or if the baby started coughing or overheated, then there's that closeness, which I actually used to know someone personally who, she said that bed sharing saved her daughter's life, because her daughter stopped breathing one night, and because she was right next to her, her instinct just kicked in, and she woke up and she managed to get her daughter breathing again. That's just one story I know, but I'm sure that there's probably others like it out there. And it's not something that you can just do with babies. So even now, my youngest child is 10 and still really enjoys sharing a bed with me, really enjoys that closeness and that connection. My son is here.
Yeah.
Yeah, because quite often during the day, parents are busy, children are busy, and although I always try and make time for connection, sometimes it's really difficult during the day. So the night time is kind of a perfect time to come together and have that connection, when it's peaceful and quiet. And I know it's been kind of just as beneficial to me as it has my children. It's brought me a lot of comfort at times, as well as my children. So many people feel uncomfortable with it, and I don't think that anybody should kind of force themselves to do it if it's not something they feel comfortable doing. Because if you're not comfortable having your baby or your child in the bed, they could sleep very close to you, in a bed next to you, so that they're still very close to you. So that's something that you can do up until your children or child is any age. I mean, I remember being very, very sick once when my children were younger, and I stayed at my mum's house, and I slept in my mum's bed with her, because I just wanted that comfort and that closeness of my mum. I just, she had a spare bed. She had a room with a spare bed. But I said, can I sleep in your bed and Dad sleep in the spare bed? And she said yes, without hesitation. And I was probably about 24, 25 at the time. But I just felt like I mean, when I was younger, when I was a child, I slept in my parents' bed. But she didn't even hesitate. So I have a child here with me. I think last time
it's
my
great.
oldest.
It's great, because this is life, and we're here, we're doing a podcast, we're talking and stuff, and that, and your son's just right, and that's part of life. It's great. It's just the way we just flow, we just go with it. So yeah, carry on. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the first thing I wanted to share about a way that we can keep that connection until whenever our child sort of doesn't want to do it anymore, really. And I don't think it's ever too late to start doing that either. If you haven't done that with your child when they were a baby or very young, it's still something that you can do. Sorry. When they're a bit older, you could even do it. Some parents might do it when their child's sick, or not feeling well. But I think it's just a good way to keep that attachment strong. And then there was something else I wanted to mention about the in the early days as well. Oh yeah, so following on from the kind of, I'm jumping about a bit here, sorry, but following on from the kind of, the pregnancy and birthing, there's something which I think more people are aware of nowadays, called the fourth trimester. So women's pregnancy, they say it's 3 trimesters, so 3 months, 3 months, 3 months. But after the baby is born, for the first 3 months of their life, they have to make a massive adjustment, from being inside the mother's womb to being out in the world. It's a huge adjustment for a baby to make. And of course, it's a really big adjustment for the parents as well, adjusting to parenthood. I think sometimes we forget, again, particularly in our society and culture, sometimes we forget just how difficult that adjustment is for a newborn baby. And some of them, seem to kind of adjust and transition to it easier than others, because right from when babies are born, they've got kind of different personalities. They've been affected by all sorts of things inside the mother. And I think that's something which I'm not going to go into too much detail about, but I can post a link maybe. I've got a link to a book all about that fourth trimester, and the fourth trimester is about really, understanding what your baby is going through and how you can best support them and yourself as well through through those first 3 months, because it can be a crazy time for a lot of parents.
So that's really, that's sort of really, again, sort of psychology, really, isn't it? And stuff and that. And that's something that you want to, is that something you'd like to put in the below for our viewers and stuff as a link?
Yes. So when we finished, I'll send you over some links, and I've written that one down because I mean, that in itself is a big topic, but I thought I forgot to mention that in the last podcast we did, so I thought I'd just mention that. And and that is, it's very much about the psychology of the baby and the parents in that time, but also about really how you can support your baby, keep that strong attachment, because so many experts, I know I said this before, are telling you to sort of separate from your baby, and almost the opposite is needed, particularly in those first 3 months, but I believe all the way through, child raising, it's so important to try and keep that bond strong, and to make time for your children as well, especially as they grow up. This is another thing, is to really make time for them and be as available as possible to them. Keep those lines of communication open. I'm gonna have to mute myself for just a minute, Kelvin. So
no, that's fine.
I don't know if you want to just say anything to what I just said.
That's fine. You just carry on, and I'll just sort of carry on, sort of chatting with the viewers for a little while.
Okay.
That's right. You just carry on.
Perfect.
Fine. Yeah. So this is life, and obviously we're having a chit chat here tonight. Obviously, we've gone into part 4, and stuff, and children are children, and so hopefully when Chloe's obviously had a little talkie and stuff, and that we should be able to carry on with the podcast. It's just one of those things, and it'd be lovely to carry on with the conversation in a minute. So
I'm back.
Back.
I'm back with you.
It's all good, it's just the way things are sometimes, Chloe. It's life's life, and things happen, and so just obviously I know that you most probably felt a little bit uncomfortable a little bit, because you're trying to get things across, and you got the children there and stuff as well, so it's fine. It's all good.
I think I'm kind of used to it now, really, because I'm I'm a working mum and I homeschool them, so
that's good.
As much as my children, they have to understand that I do have to work and I want to do things like this with you, I am still available to them.
Of course, of course.
So as I was just saying
Yeah.
before
And
this, yeah.
that's what I love loads, you know what I mean? Because, you know, we're just doing this, you know, and yeah, you know, I can't ask for a greater podcast because at the end of the day, children are children, and you know they do what they do and stuff and that, you know, and yeah, and this is what it's about, you know. At the end of the day, you know, children are there, you know, to enjoy, to play, you know.
Mm,
This is the thing, you know, going back to a chat that I had, you know, with Ahmed and stuff, you know, how they want to get you rushed into school by 5 years old, you know, and get you filled with
mm,
all that junk, you know, where play is so important, you
yeah.
know, and they should be doing that beyond 5, you know,
Oh,
up and
definitely.
upwards, you know,
Yeah.
and stuff and all of that. So I really, really love that and stuff and that. And I really love that, you know, having this conversation like your children are doing what they're doing and stuff and all of that.
Mm,
You know, but I just, you know, I just wanted to just say to you, I didn't know if you felt uncomfortable. I'm glad you're not feeling uncomfortable and stuff and all of that. And, you know, you're used to it and stuff and all of that. Because some people, obviously, when they do podcasts, you know, they might get a little bit flummoxed by certain things.
mm,
But if you're comfortable with it, that's great and stuff. So
yeah.
it's all
Yeah.
good.
You know,
That's all good.
sometimes when I'm working, I
Mm,
get interrupted, or I used to do the breastfeeding support work, and
mm,
you know, the children would often come with me, you know, to the meeting. So I'd be supporting a mother and the children would be there. So sometimes they would need me, but we were all mothers, you know, and I think multitasking is something that I've got much better at since having children, definitely. I mean
yeah.
sometimes it does, obviously at the moment I feel like I've lost the flow a little bit, but it's fine. I'll keep talking and it will just keep flowing
All right.
again.
Yeah. Cool.
I'm jumping about a bit anyway,
Mm,
this time because I had this, you know, just importance of connection came to
mm.
me. And so I've just kind of written things that I want to mention. Um, so it's, yeah, it's jumping about a little bit, but it's all on that same topic
Yeah. Yeah.
of the connecting,
Mm, mm.
and the knowledge, you know, and also, you know, making children aware that these kinds of things are normal, you know, sharing a bed with
Mm.
your child, and you know, biologically they are normal.
Well, can I just say something right there because I didn't mention it earlier. I remember doing that. I remember doing that.
Mm,
My mum and dad, you know,
yeah,
when I was very younger, you know, I remember that, you know, and it was just perfectly normal.
yeah,
And I do remember that, you know, as a child and all of that, you know, and yeah, it was just natural.
yeah,
Yeah. So I'm right there with you on that. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm,
Oh, that's
mm,
fantastic that
mm,
you had
mm.
that experience.
Yes, I did. Yeah. Yeah.
I've you
Mm,
know, I've read a lot of books in the past around sort of the sleeping um side of things, sleeping and children, and there's
mm,
actually another book which I'll share a link to, which is all about sleeping and babies and toddlers.
mm,
Um, what was I going to say? Oh, yes, and I can't remember if it's in the book I'll share or somewhere else. I read some stories about children who maybe in the very early years there wasn't a very strong bond with the parents, you know, for many different reasons this could happen. And so, you know, as a result of that lack of early attachment, that the child does suffer kind of trauma and stress.
mm,
But then the parents have become aware, and then they have started bed sharing or started doing other things, you know, and it's really helped to the child to overcome that trauma and that stress. So it's like a healer as well,
mm, mm,
you know, not only the bed sharing, but also, you know, the quality time with your children.
mm,
That's what I was saying just before Elwood needed me. You know, is that importance of making time for
mm.
your children. There's too many distractions.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
And
even us as adults, we know
yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah,
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 this is what I mean.
for
There's
sure.
too many
Mm,
distractions for
mm,
adults. Yes, we have to work sometimes, and
mm,
yes, you know, housework has to be done, and you know, things sometimes have to be done. And
mm,
you know, you but that doesn't mean that you just say no to your child. I always say, oh, if they ask me, "Oh, mummy, can we play this?" And I'm in the middle of something, I'll say, "I'm just finishing that up, give me 5, 10 minutes and I'll be
mm,
right there with you." I make it very clear that I really want to have that time, and and whenever they ask me to do something with them, I just feel so much joy because
mm,
it's like, oh yes, they actually still want to play with me, or they want to show me something, or even just talk to me about something,
mm,
because I've always tried to make myself as available as possible.
mm,
That keeps that kind of line of communication open. So I know
mm,
my kids aren't going to tell me everything that's going on with them. I know that's not going to happen, and it probably doesn't happen. But I do feel that they come to me a lot, not only, for when they're having difficult times or things like that, but yeah, to play, and to have
mm,
fun, to be silly, or to ask me about something, just anything.
mm, mm,
And I'm really, I feel very blessed that my children do come to me,
mm,
because I've realized actually that nowadays it doesn't happen that much. Children don't really go to their parents as much as they used to. And
mm.
and I have a feeling it's to do with all these distractions. The parents are
Yeah.
so distracted by things. Um,
I mean,
you know,
yeah, yeah. I mean, I just wanted to jump in there.
sure.
I mean, I'm just talking about some of the things I've observed, and it's almost like you can see that how the sort of family unit again has been so broken down,
Mm,
and you know, you'll get the father and the mother, they're tapping away behind the boards, the
mm,
keyboards, and and then even the children can be sort of tapping behind the keyboards, and then before you know it, there's just no real communication between the actual family. It's
mm,
like it's done to actually divide everyone apart,
yeah.
and you just see it all the time.
It's like, each family member is in their own little world.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, yeah,
And,
yeah,
there's times throughout the day when I have to work. So when I'm not available, that's when my children mostly will have their time
mm,
on the screens, because I'm not available for that
mm,
hour or 2 hours. But then once I'm not working anymore, I'm very available
mm,
to them. So I always make sure that when I finish work, unless we've got to, rush off out somewhere or something like that, I always make sure that there's time, that I make that time. Right, okay, it's time to come off of this now, but I'm available. Let's play together. Let's do something together. Let's reconnect after having that kind of separation.
mm,
Let's reconnect again.
mm, mm, mm. Yeah, and I mean, again, yeah, it's again, isn't it? It's yeah. I mean, I don't have a problem with a child if they want to go on a laptop and do something, here and there, but as long as
Mm,
it's not like a sort of a constant thing, that's just all they do, all the time,
mm,
or they're on the games all the time, and stuff and all that. It's almost like that's where they're trying to take everybody. Do you know what I mean? I mean,
mm.
I had a scenario the other day when I had to go into hospital to see the doctor. I'll just put that out there. I know it's sort of connected in a sort of a way, but even the other day when I was there and I was waiting in the hospital for 5 hours to get seen by the doctor about the hernia and stuff. You know, I was sitting there and I think there was two nurses and they were just like there in their screens. They weren't even communicating with each
Mm,
other. It's just like everyone was like in their screens.
yeah,
It's just like really, really weird, that yeah, it's just yeah, it's like there's no communication. It's almost like wherever you look. I mean, I'm not saying everywhere, but most of the time, wherever you look, there's just people stuck into their screens.
yeah,
Uh, yeah,
yeah.
it's just what
And
you
this,
pick up on.
yeah. And this is something which I really make a point of actually talking to my children about. You know, so when we go on public transport, which at the moment we are, you know, a bit, because I can't drive, and everybody is stuck there on the phone. Like, I will take, you know, like books to read my kids, or, you know, something to do whilst we're on the bus or the train. And when we went up to London on the train, I think that was the day we had the last podcast. I'd been to London, and
That's right.
I took card games to play with them. So they did have a little bit of time, you know, once we'd kind of, you know, been busy all day, playing, and then we just had a little bit of chill out time. I said, okay, you can have, I can't remember, just 15-20 minutes or something, just to play a game. But all the while my son was playing the game on his phone, we were still interacting, and, you know, he was telling me what level he was on, and I was kind of, you know, saying, that's fantastic, you know, you can do it, still having that interaction. And then, you know, then we were doing card games and, you know, reading. And so even, yeah, when we're in that situation, everyone else is, I always sort of provide an alternative. And I do often speak to my children about how weird it is, you know, how weird it is that everybody's just sat there and they're not talking. They're not communicating with one another. So that, I think that's another way that we can kind of, you know, pass on our knowledge, you know, with the knowledge that we have of how damaging that can be to a society.
And I mean, I know I'm talking with you about all this, you know, and I'm not, you know, completely slating technology, you know, because
No, me neither.
you know, it has its good sides as well, you know.
Yeah, of
You know,
course.
but it's where to know, I suppose, where to sort of draw the line, really, you know. And I suppose what I'm trying to say is that because I'm sort of understanding about nature, you know, and how we're connected to nature, and yeah, it's just like there's just way more to explore and to feel, and to feel, you know, and stuff and all that. I mean, yeah, that's all I can say really on that one, because it's hard to put into words. It's something you can only experience, you know. But yeah, I'm not, you know, again, you know, it has its good points, you know. So
of course it does, because if it wasn't for technology, we wouldn't be making this podcast right now, and I wouldn't be doing a job, you know, which I love and which is very rewarding, and which is benefiting, you know, all of my students are benefiting hugely from learning English with me, and it's going to help them to progress in their, you know, in their academic life or in their career. So I think there are some, you know, some real benefits to technology. But when you live in a culture whereby you're kind of in a public place and everybody's just sat there like this, it's yeah, it just weird is the word that just is coming to me, is weird. So yeah, I make a point of having these kind of conversations with my kids about how weird it is, you know, that people just don't talk so much anymore. And what's lovely is that when we do go out and about, like, you know, my kids are not always, but they're usually quite happy to chat to people, you know, people working in shops, bus drivers, even other, you know, other customers in shops. If someone chats to them and they're really happy, you know, and they're cheery, we say, we have a little saying in my, you know, me and my kids, oh, they were a cheery chappy, you know, if somebody's really happy. And my kids really notice that when somebody is really cheery. And you know, if my daughter goes into town by herself, she'll come back and she'll say to me, oh, there was a really cheery chappy, and, you know, whichever shop it was in, and really make a point, and we'll discuss that and say how lovely it is that there are still some people who are, you know, really engaging with other people. So I think the fact that I'm having these kinds of conversations with my children, they're becoming more aware of the people who, you know, aren't really engrossed in, you know, the technology world, and they're really enjoying those kind of interactions with people that they meet.
yeah. And again, you know, you sharing that, just saying, it's like I remember as a child, like exploring I wanted to explore, you know. When I
Mm,
think about it, when I really go back to my childhood, I think, yeah, I was exploring and and yeah, it's like it was all of an adventure.
yes.
Mm,
Yes, yeah. Well,
mm,
when you're a child, obviously
mm,
you know, your experience in this life is it's limited. So like,
mm,
so many things are new to
mm,
you,
mm,
new experiences, new adventures, and having kids has it's helped me to kind of see the world more through their eyes again, and to
mm,
take wonder in the smaller things. A few days ago, so my son, who's now sleeping next to me in my bed, by the way,
oh, how's
yeah,
how
yeah,
sweet.
well,
Mm,
is quite into gardening at the moment. So we
mm,
got some plants the other day, some tomato plants, strawberry plants, and he put them all into bigger pots and everything. And um, our garden is like a bit of a hangout for the neighborhood kids. And I feel
mm,
so blessed that our space has been chosen, for all these children to congregate and to laugh and have fun and make memories. And the other day they had this big pile of soil and dirt, and they were going through it, coming in. We found a worm, we found this, and I think I can't remember what I was doing. I think I was reading or whatever I was doing. I stopped and I said, "Wow, let me see," and I really
mm,
took. Yeah, it's a worm. I've seen a million worms in my life, but to really to see their wonder and their excitement and their
mm,
joy, I couldn't ignore that. I just had
mm,
to. I wanted to tap into that and feel
mm,
like a child again. So I said, come and
mm,
show me, let's look at it. And then they found a centipede, and it was all very exciting. And I could have
mm.
just sat there and been like, oh, okay, that's nice, but I really,
Engage, yeah, like you
yeah,
engaged, yeah, with them.
yeah. And I
Yeah,
think the more
yeah.
you do this with your children, the kind of the
Mm,
easier it becomes as well.
mm,
It's
mm,
quite alien to some people. But the more you do it, the more natural it feels, because that
mm,
is natural to share in other people's joy,
mm,
even if it's not something that you necessarily would think was incredibly wonderful. That child does, and that's beautiful.
mm,
And
mm,
it's such a lovely thing to share
mm,
with them,
mm,
to
mm,
share, to take an interest. That's the other thing I wanted to mention about, another way to keep that bond, that connection, is really taking an interest in things that they are interested in.
mm,
And also sharing, your interests with your children. So
mm,
some of the things that I do, my children don't necessarily want to do or want to try, but they're happy for me. So this evening I went to like a qigong meditation group, which I do fortnightly.
yeah.
I don't think I shared a lot with them this evening because they were playing, but often I'll come home and I'll share with them what we did, and they'll listen
Mm.
because I do the same for them. So just sharing information with each other about what we're interested in.
Yeah, it's like giving each other space, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm, mm,
yeah, giving the space. And
mm, mm,
I don't think that they're going to start doing qigong tomorrow or meditation, but the fact that I'm
mm,
making them aware of it, these things which are very beneficial for our mind and our body,
mm,
I'm passing on the knowledge, but also sharing something that I feel is really beneficial to me. It makes me happy. So they like to share in my joy and happiness as much as I do in theirs.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's great.
Yeah, and
That's a beautiful thing. Mm,
it is, and it's so important, to take an interest and to ask them questions as well.
mm,
So often nowadays, communication between families is, sort of, I don't know, one word or, one sentence, and that's it. But, if your child's interested in something, ask loads of questions about it. Find out as much as you can, because you can learn a lot about your child, from asking these questions. And again, it's showing them that you're really invested in them and really interested in them and what they've got to say. You want to hear all about the new game they've just played online, even though I don't like online gaming. I want to hear about my son's experience, you know, that he had there, and I can learn a lot about him
mm,
from that as
mm,
well.
mm,
So yeah, so I think that that's something which is crucial. And obviously, when they're babies and toddlers, they don't necessarily voice their experiences, but you can be there with them to go through those experiences and support
mm.
them on, you know, more of the kind of emotional level. And then as they get older, of course, you still support them emotionally, but you can actually have the conversation. So, you know, if I take an interest in their interests, then I like to think that they feel more comfortable, like I said before, coming to me and
Mm,
talking to me when they are having difficulties, when
mm.
something's troubling them, when they're not sure about something. They feel that there's that space there, that they can be heard and they will be listened to.
Yeah. Well, it's again, isn't it? It's like, it's sort of breaking the barriers down. You're trying to keep
Yeah,
the barriers down rather than
yeah,
the barriers going up, sort of thing. Yeah.
mm,
And again, that's obviously from your insights of what you've seen, and stuff. And because you're aware of those insights that you've seen, it helps you in your relationship with your
mm,
children. Mm,
definitely.
mm, mm,
And well, now that I've started speaking about, you know, the importance of the listening and holding the space,
mm,
there's a quote which I really like. It's by a lady called Catherine M. Wallace. I'm not overly familiar with her.
mm.
I know that she is I've written it down here. She's like where did I write it? Oh, so she's an author, but also a cultural historian.
Okay.
I've never actually read, she's written, yeah, quite a few books. I've never read a book of hers, but this quote appeared to me as a meme. Maybe this is the meme I will share with you, Kelvin, for this podcast. Um, so the quote, it says, "Listen earnestly to anything your children want to tell you, no matter what. If you don't listen eagerly to the little stuff when they are little, they won't tell you the big stuff when they are big, because to them, all of it has always been big stuff."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
might
Yeah.
seem like a really insignificant thing to us, you know,
Mm, mm,
as a young child, like, oh no, you know, I don't know, you're at a friend's house and there's a pink cup and a green cup, you know, and your child wants the green cup, but another child takes it. Your child's upset by that. That seems insignificant to an adult. A cup is a cup. But to a
mm,
child, they wanted that green cup. They
mm,
really
mm,
wanted that. So
mm,
you know, to them, that's a really big deal. Um, very often children's concerns and worries, I think, particularly when they're, you know, really young, are kind of like poo-pooed by adults. Oh, why are you crying about that? That's so ridiculous. You know, don't be so silly. Well, it's valid. You know, it's
mm.
valid. That child obviously felt strongly about that cup, or, you know, whatever it was that they couldn't have, or, you know, if situations don't go the way that they want them to as well. You know,
Mm.
there's a lot of frustration there that, you know, as they get a bit older, it's easier to talk through these things with them. But when they're younger, they
Yeah.
can't talk. You
I
know, it
mean,
often
yeah,
comes out in crying,
yeah.
shouting,
Hmm,
screaming.
hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as you're saying all this, I know that I suppressed a lot of stuff. It's almost like growing up and into my adulthood, and you know, um, being a sort of a child into my teenage years and into being an adult, and those very things from a very very young age mold you. They do.
Mm,
As you grow up and stuff and all that. And I used to suppress so much stuff and used to hold it all down inside of me. And then you wonder why you walk into adulthood, with all this trauma and
mm,
anger and because stuff's not been dealt with. And again, it always comes back to all these life skills. We're never told about how to deal with our feelings, and our emotions. And
mm,
this is a big thing that's missing you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very important thing, and I didn't know how to deal with my emotions, my feelings, I know my parents, they did the best that they could do,
Mm,
but again, it gets handed down, and
yeah.
it is for us to discover these things, and in the hope that we can guide them in that, how to deal better with their emotions, anger, all these different elements of energy that go on inside of us,
Mm,
and stuff, because it is nature, we feel all sorts of things, whether it's anger, fear, love, joy,
mm-hmm.
it goes on and on and on, you know. Yeah, it's it's not easy, but I know that
No.
I'm coming out of that now, and stuff, and I'm obviously on my journey and working through that stuff. So, but yeah, you just had like get to see the bigger picture,
Mm,
with things. So yeah,
yeah, and yeah, thank you for sharing that about your childhood, because I think what happens quite often with, children, and even into, as they become teenagers, if they don't feel that there is that space there for them to share how they really feel, and if they don't feel that they're being really heard and validated, then yeah, they do suppress things,
mm,
without even realizing it. It just becomes like a natural reaction, I think,
mm,
or almost like a protection. You feel
mm,
like it's a protection because you're you're not getting the kind of response, or I don't know if response is the right word, but the support. So you learn to suppress it, or you begin to suppress it.
mm,
And yet it's not until sometimes, like yourself, later on in life, that you realize that you actually did that.
mm,
And some people never come to realize that.
yeah,
And you made another really good point about, your parents did the best job they could, and I believe every parent does, you know, the best, what they believe is best for their
yeah,
child.
yeah,
And of course, this has a lot of influence from our own parents, even grandparents. But nowadays, I think also, that there is so much influence on how we parent from, these narratives and these agendas. We've got all of that feeding into it as well.
mm,
So it is difficult. And this is why I say it shouldn't be this difficult, because even before all of the, technology age, before everyone had a TV, and before even newspapers were a big thing, I'm sure that parenting wasn't a breeze. However, there would have been less distractions and less barriers.
mm,
Or perhaps I'm being
mm,
naive, perhaps there was different ones back then. I
mm,
haven't done an awful lot of research,
mm.
to sort of parenting 2, 3,
Yeah,
400 years ago. Maybe there were different obstacles and barriers.
yeah, well, I'm sure yeah, there would have been.
Mm.
I mean, well, I mean, a discussion I had with Ahmed, he said about, before telly and all that sort of stuff. Well, how were really a lot of people controlled through religion, the
Well,
priesthood,
yes, yes,
the priesthood were, and I mean, it makes complete
yeah,
sense. That's a great way to control people, isn't it? Through religion,
yeah.
So,
I think for centuries, these powers that shouldn't be
mm,
have been controlling us to,
mm,
one extent or another. And it's different areas. It just seems that now we're bombarded with it.
yeah, yeah,
And it's not even through technology. There's all the toxins, and there's just so much going on, which, each of these things makes not only our own individual journeys more challenging, but then if you have to then raise a child through that, you've got to overcome all those things within yourself, but then you've
mm,
also got to overcome those things in order to, like, get your kids through this time without
mm,
being too
mm,
damaged,
mm,
by
mm.
everything that's going on. And
Going on. Yeah. Well, it's good because again, we talk about not being on the chessboard, and not playing the game, you know,
Yeah.
and being on the hamster wheel, you know, because that's where they want you to be, stuck in on the hamster wheel, or
Oh,
you know, and all that.
completely.
But I mean, I watched sorry, I'm gonna have to shift myself up a bit,
Do you know, I'm feeling that
get
a
myself a
little
little
bit
bit
now as
comfortable,
well. I
getting a
might
bit
have to
bit of
shift
a
up as
bit of a
well.
numb bum a
There we
little
go.
bit, but yeah,
There we
so
go.
yeah, I just watched a little mini podcast. Well, not the whole podcast is about 3 hours and 20 minutes long,
Right.
which is about the female Illuminati, you know, and
Okay.
that's by Michael Tsarion. But there
Mm-hmm.
was something that got shared from it, because within about a day it got taken down, completely taken down.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's how you know something is
Yeah.
truthful and powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. And he goes, you know, Michael Tsarion, and you know, I recommend for people, because you know he does a lot of good research and stuff. But one of the things that he talked about was about, you know, all what's going on. You know, he said treat it as a psychic phenomena. You know, he's
Mm.
not saying to totally disregard it, but he's sort of saying, you know, they've been doing this. You know, they've been doing this for you know, for thousands and thousands of years, but it's only just now that, you know, they're starting to really ramp it up, sort of thing. And he was also saying basically there's a new bunch that are in it, and they're going basically cuckoo out there, you know, and that's why things are
Mm-hmm.
getting so crazy, you know.
Yeah.
But I see it like that. I see it as a psychic phenomena, and because I know
Yes.
it's a psychic phenomena, I'm then not drawn into, you know, what's happening now, and oh, what they're doing over here, and you know, and oh, the money, and you know, it's just like
Mm.
that's where they want you to in there. They want
Yeah.
you fed up on all that stuff, and for them,
Mm-hmm.
they're getting off on all of that, because they're it's part of them draining you, you know, of your energy, and stuff. All the time they can keep you in fear. They're doing their job, you know,
Yeah.
and stuff, and all of that. And this is it, you
Yeah.
know. I began to realize this about a year ago, and stuff, and that's why I've moved on, you know, and stuff, and
Mm.
all of that. And it's not my main focus point anymore. You know,
Mm.
I'm not saying to totally disregard it, you know. You know, as I say, keep one eye on the ball, sort of thing, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, again, we get to choose. We get to choose to create our world. That's what it's
Of
about,
course.
you know, and
Yeah.
that's really what it's about. It's about
Yeah.
creating our world, you
And
know.
that's where my focus is. Yeah.
And that's where my focus is. So yeah, that's just something
Yeah.
I just wanted to share a little bit about anyway. So
Yeah.
I will put
Yeah.
that link underneath for our viewers
Yes,
if you
please
want to check it
do.
out. So
Yeah.
mm.
Yeah. So in relation to what you're saying, you know,
Mm.
everything you were saying, it really resonates with
I
me
know it sort of
because
it drifted off a little bit there
no,
because
no,
we're
no,
talking about
it's
children,
fine.
but
No,
you
it's
know,
fine because this is the kind of knowledge actually which I'm trying to pass on to my children as well, you know, about the importance of not kind of getting drawn into things too much, whether it's the mainstream or, you know, the truth movement. That's
even
what
within
some
that,
people call it.
that's yeah, yeah, again, yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
you
So on both
yeah,
sides.
even the truth community, you know what I mean? It's in brackets, you know, it's like, again, it's all there to, again, a lot of it to distract you, you know, and
Yes.
stuff like that. And you have to really be discerning about what you watch, you know,
Yes.
and stuff and all that. So yeah, you have to literally be, you know, yeah, you know, that's why, you know, I ended up, you know, sort of going down that line. Was more interested in, you know, the occult, you know, and about the esoteric stuff and psychology,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel that's very important, you know, and about religion, you know, about our true religion, you know, which I believe was nature before all other religions, you know, and it's all, you know, the druids, you know, you know, I think we have so much to gain, you know, from going back and looking at those very things, because all the time they can keep you distracted, you know, with this and with that, you know, with their sorcery, you know, they're doing
It
their
is,
job.
yeah. Yeah,
They're
yeah,
doing
yeah.
their job basically, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So I you know, it's not a topic of conversation that I, you know, bring up very often with my children, but I always kind of, you know, I always take the opportunity if one arises to, you know, if I can't really think of a specific example right now, but you know, it does happen sometimes where something will come up. One of them will say something, or you know, we might even, I don't know, see something on a, you know, on a video we've watched together or something, and I'll always make a point of saying something along the lines of, you know, well, that doesn't apply to us, or you know, things like this, you know, oh, that's you know, that's really weird what they're doing over there, you know, we don't need to worry about that. And I'll kind of slip things like that in. And actually quite often my children will say things like that themselves, about things which maybe, you know, I haven't even seen or watched, but they might say to me, oh, you know, oh, I saw this guy, you know, on YouTube the other day, and he had all of this and all of that. And particularly my daughter will say, oh, you know, it's not important to have all those things in life. And, you know, I like to think that by, you know, the little kind of comments that I'm making, I'm passing on this knowledge that, you know, it's not important to have all the fancy cars and fancy houses and, you know, and, you know, so many other different things which are distractions. I'm trying to make my children aware, you know, aware of that.
Yeah, you're passing on what true value is,
Yes,
rather
yeah,
than
that's it.
the
Yeah.
other value of that. You know what I mean? And
Yes,
other certain
yes.
worldly things, basically. Yeah.
And when you were speaking and you know, you were saying about the kind of things you watch now, yes, so I'm very, very mindful about the things that I'm paying attention to and spending time on, you know, the currencies of our consciousness, paying attention, spending time. That's Mark
Yeah.
Passio.
Yeah.
So the things that I do watch now, I feel that, you know, because I share so much with my children, the kind of things that I'm watching now and listening to, you know, podcasts when I do have a chance to, there is so much valuable information in there, so much knowledge that I feel like, oh, actually, yeah, I think my kids would really get that, you know. So I'll find an opportunity to mention that to them. And as I said before, most of the time, not every single time, but most of the time, they're happy to listen to what I have to share. And I like to think that, you know, that will, I don't want to you know, mold them into, you know, into a certain way. They are their own people, but it is important to instill values in them, you know, and to pass on knowledge which is going to benefit them. So by watching these videos and podcasts which are benefiting me, I can then pass that on to my children, things which I think would, you know, would be appropriate or would benefit them in some way.
Yeah, I think that at the end of the day, I suppose, you know, it's choosing the right times, isn't it, when to share with your children. And you know, we know when it's the right time to share, you know, and stuff and all that. You know, it's almost like letting it happen organically rather than trying to force things. Because again, if we force things, that's where we go wrong. You know, it's almost like you have to know when it's the right time, and when they're open as well,
when they're open,
want to listen, you know, and engage with that as well, isn't it? You know, it's all learning.
yes,
It's all learning.
it is. And you know, when you have a good, you know, strong connection and bond with your child, I feel like I'm a lot more in tune with them. So I can kind of sense when they need a bit of quality time, or, you know, when they would be open to kind of some kind of conversations. Because as much as I don't force things, as you said, I don't agree with that either. I try to let things happen organically, but sometimes there may be topics which I feel need to be discussed. You know, maybe something will happen, you know, with my son and my daughter, and I think, that's something that we do kind of need to talk about. So I might feel that at the time it's not right, but I'll just make them aware, I think we need to have a chat about that, you know, at some point. Probably not right now if it doesn't feel right then, you know, but we need to have a chat about that. And then I can make sure that I set aside that time, or very often the time will come in the next couple of days. I'll put it out there that this needs to be discussed, and then things will just flow, and very often it does just happen. So that, I think that having that real attachment, it helps with the kind of flow and the attunement and understanding, and something I'm always really aware of is like being honest with my children as well, you know, being completely honest. And you know, I my daughter more so, she's 13 now, you know, I do kind of share some stories about when I was a teenager, and maybe I did some quite stupid things. And again, when the time is right, you know, I have shared some stories with her about how I made some really bad decisions when I was younger, because it was relevant to, you know, what we were watching and what we were talking about.
Yeah.
But then I hope that she can learn. Obviously, I don't think she can learn from my mistakes, but the fact that I've been honest and shared the fact that I made some mistakes, I like to think that she would then come to me if she thought she had made a mistake, or if there was a decision that she was thinking, oh, this might be a mistake if I make this decision. Let's talk to mum first, you know, because she made mistakes when she was younger. So sharing not only knowledge, but, you know, experiences as well from when we were younger. And if there's been situations where we made bad decisions, but we've now reflected on that and maybe understood why or how that happened, we can then share that knowledge and experience with our children, in the hope that maybe they won't make so many you know, stupid decisions and mistakes. But no, they're not stupid. No decision really is necessarily
well, I
stupid,
mean,
but
I mean, going back to, you know, what you're saying there, you know, it's again, you know, even as adults, you know, we can make I call it foolish mistakes, you know,
foolish,
playing the fool, you know, but that's all part of it, you know, because again, you know, without, you know, the sort of, again, it's all duality, you know, everything is duality as far as I'm concerned. And we have to, you know, go through these things, because without these things, you know, and if we choose to acknowledge those things that we see, then you gain wisdom from it. It's that simple. You know, in the hope that you'll maybe make so many foolish mistakes, you know, and stuff, because it then makes your life a bit more easier. You know, life's going to always be full of challenges. You know, if you come into this world thinking that, you know, it's all about love and light, then that's a massive, for me, that's all new age BS as far as I'm concerned. You know, dark, light, you know, hot, cold, plus, minus, you know, it's all duality, all of it. And you know, I see that all around me, you know, every day in my experiences. And so you can't have good and evil and separate evil as a separate entity. It's all part of the all. It's all part of the source, whatever you want to call it, you know, because I believe it's there. It's there to change. It's almost like we have to understand what evil is within each one of us. That's what I'm beginning to realize and have that real grasp, because if we don't understand that very core of what's in each one of us, then how can we move forwards? You know, we need to, it's almost like sit there and observe, you know, but otherwise it just run amok as what you're seeing, we're seeing going out there, you know, because you know, it's very easy for people to say, oh, look what they're doing here, and look, you know, but the reality is it's only what's inside of us. It's just that, and that's it. And they've just taken it to the extreme, you know, and stuff. It's there to be observed. It's there to learn from. It's there to grow from, you know. And I really believe we're here right now, and that because you know, all that's happening, I'm just grateful. I'm like, thank you. I'm really grateful, because it's helping me to realize that without that, how can we grow as mankind? How can we move forward and learn from evil, you know, as well?
Yeah. And
that's how I feel about it. So that's, you know, maybe not everyone may agree with that, but that's how I feel. So Anyway,
Mm.
please share.
And this, this time that we're living in now, I believe that humans are going through a huge upgrade, for want of a better word.
Mm.
This time that we're in now, we are being so as much as there is, evil running amok, that's another Mark Passio expression that he uses,
Yeah, yeah.
evil running amok, as much as all that is going on, actually the amount of people who are waking up to what is really important, the importance of our psychology and our inner selves, our
Mm.
higher selves, it's just increasing day by day by day. And I very much feel energies. So there are some times when I can almost I can sort of tap in and tune into the collective energy, and it's becoming really freaking powerful. It really is, more and more people are realizing the importance of this. And I think there's a lot that's going on which is not great, but there's also a lot going on that, to benefit us. So
Mm.
I feel very
Sure.
grateful because
Mm.
without that evil stuff happening, people wouldn't realize, like what is evil and what is good. So humans have been asleep for a long, long time. Let's just say they've been asleep. They've been in this slumber or, kind of hypnotic state for
Mm.
hundreds and hundreds of years, you know, as a generalization.
Mm.
Um, and and now we are waking up. I personally think that is happening because, of this evil stuff that's going on. It's just gone on for so long now, and it's just becoming so obvious that people are like, whoa, okay, how did it get to that level? I don't want to be part of that. I want to be part of, like, I know that evil and good have to, like you said, coexist, but I do believe that we can still live in the love and the light. We have to be aware of the darkness and the shadow, but we can
Oh, for
incorporate
sure.
that.
For
We can
sure.
incorporate that into us, and we don't have to live in
Yeah.
a world where there's so much evil.
Everything is by choice, and
Yeah,
once you realize that, it exists in each one of us, and again, I don't know, you might have a bad thought or whatever, that may come into your head or whatever it may be. But again, it's how you choose, it's not, yeah. And
yeah,
if you let it run amok, then you're gonna end up just, being the very thing that they are out there. This is it, and stuff
yeah,
and all that. So it is almost like just being aware of what's in each one of us, and the potential that evil can do when it runs amok, and
mm,
stuff and all that. But again, yeah, it's about love. We are not the fancy love that we think love is. It's a love
no,
that goes great.
real
Yeah,
unconditional love.
it's a mystic love. It's beyond
Mm,
the love that we comprehend that it is.
that
It's
we've
some
been told is love,
or
or
what
that
we
we
think love is. Yeah,
understand to
yeah,
be
yeah,
love.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And stuff like that. So
yeah,
again, and love comes in many, many different forms, and I believe that that's right at the heart and the core of whatever you want to call it, the source. Again,
mm,
the all, God, whatever you
yeah,
want to,
yeah,
your
complete and
interpretation.
utter. I mean,
You know.
I don't think that this really does kind of um perfectly define it, but complete and total unconditional love,
Mm.
I think is the closest words that I can find to try and define it. But that's how I feel that this source creator,
Mm.
whichever word you want to use, I
Mm.
believe that that's what that is. It is that kind of that force that has within it that
Mm.
completely unconditional love,
Yeah, yeah,
um
yeah,
and
for sure.
power as well,
Yeah,
power,
it's an
the
energy.
power.
It is an
Yeah,
absolute.
the energy.
It's an
Yeah, yeah,
absolute
yeah.
energy. I mean, I know
Mm,
from some of my experiences that I've had, and just wanted to just say as well, about, you're saying about the love, and stuff. It's almost like, it is, something that's, the mystic sees these very things, and I feel like that's why I'm on this sort of mystical journey,
Yeah,
and
it is mystical,
and yeah,
magical.
and I don't know everything, I'm, if anything, I'm always learning, um, from other people that I connect with, like yourself, or whether it's Ahmed that comes on and shares with me, we're all learning off of each other, because we've all got beautiful things to give and beautiful things to share, and it's lovely that we can come and share in our own beautiful, unique expression, and that
Yeah.
that I love, that I really, really love, that we can do these beautiful talks and share from our own unique, beautiful place and stuff and all that. It comes down to, all what that we're talking about. I know that it sort of drifted a bit away from the children element, but let's go back there just for a minute, because all that we are experiencing is there to pass on to our children.
Of
Ultimately,
course. Yes,
that
yes, yes.
that's
Yeah,
what it all comes down to, that we
it
pass this on.
does.
Yeah.
And actually, you've mentioned love, and I think there's probably one more thing I'd like to mention in this podcast. I mean, again, it's something else I could go deep into, but just because
Yeah,
love.
time. And I know we got, we're sort of aware of the time and stuff as well.
Yes.
And this is something we can carry on the next podcast. So
I mean,
yeah.
maybe I can mention this in the next podcast. Then I'll just say what it is briefly. It's
Yeah, yeah.
something which I discovered a few years ago now, and it's kind of psychology based, but it's called love languages.
Mm,
So it's kind of like a concept or a theory that these guys have come up with about, and it's to do with understanding how people feel loved. So
mm,
when you have a child, of course you love them,
mm,
and you automatically assume that your child feels loved by you,
mm,
and they know that they're loved by you. Now, whilst I do think this is true to some extent, there's different ways that we show love. So they've written a book. There is one specifically about children, actually, the 5 love languages of children, and it's a really great book to read. I think if you're feeling like you've lost your connection with your child, that attachment
mm,
is not very strong
mm.
because.
Is that a book that you have yourself?
So I've
Or
had it from the library and I've
okay.
read it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Um.
yeah. Well, we'll
Um.
put that down below
I'll
for the
put it in
viewers.
the link.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it really teaches you, how to. So there's 5 love languages, so it goes into detail about what they are and how you can, express love in these different ways to your children. And one child, it might be, if you buy them a present, to them they might feel like you love them more than anything in the world. Another child might think, oh, I'm grateful for the present, but really what I wanted was a cuddle from mummy or daddy, or so yeah, it is quite psychology based.
Mm,
It doesn't delve very deeply into psychology, but when you think about it, it is kind of psychology based because our
mm,
wants and our needs come from, what's in here. So that's a book. I became aware of love languages several years ago, but I only actually read the one like specifically about children. Gosh, I think it was towards the end of last year I started reading it, and I finished it quite quickly. It's not a massively long book, and it was just really easy to read, really
mm,
interesting because I felt that I just was losing connection a bit with my daughter. So I thought, I'll read that. I'll try and because it kind of also tells you, how to figure out what your child's love language is and your own. So yeah, it's really about just learning how to. This sounds strange, learning how to love your children. We all love our children, even the children who aren't our children. We love the children, they're children of the earth, but really, you know, ways that you can show them
mm,
that they will really. that will really resonate with them, I suppose, you know, in the strongest possible way. So yeah, that has been beneficial to me, that book. And I've also spoken to my children about that book and about the concept of the 5 love languages, so that, you know, we're all aware now in our house of all the different love languages that we have. And I have noticed, since telling my children about this, and we all took like a little quiz thing, which was quite fun, answered some questions to figure out our love language. I have noticed that the way that my children you know, my son has been saying to my daughter more often than he was a little while ago, like, oh, do you want to play? Do you want to spend time with me? Because her main love language is spending quality time. So, you know, he's picked up on that. And I think it's not only benefiting my relationship with my children, but also their relationship with each other. And then my boyfriend as well, who lives here, I think he's picked up on it, and he's, you know, trying to use it to keep a strong connection. So yeah, because we were speaking about love, I thought I will mention that love languages.
Wow. I think that's a great one to sort of end this sort of podcast on, and maybe we can sort of go in and elaborate more on that on the next podcast.
Yeah, I'm
So
happy to do that.
I mean, I know it sort of it drifted off a little bit towards the end and stuff and that, but again, I think that all this stuff that we share, you know, it's there, you know, to, well, you know, I mean, you know, it's about us as well, you know, but it's also about the children as well, you know, because,
Yeah.
you know, for me, I think the enemies of life, you know, they you know, they want to be able to, if they can, you know, try and destroy that. You know, the enemies of life want to destroy that, take away, you know, all these beautiful things that could be lost. You know, whether it's mythology, astrology, you know, all the important things that mean so much to us. You know, in our culture, in our tribes. You know, yeah, you know, fairy tales. You know, the list goes on and on and on. You know, creativity, art. You know, all this
Yeah.
stuff. So yeah, we're
Yeah,
here.
that's
We're here like as a burning flame, really, to keep those things alive and, you know, keep those things that are precious to us. You know, and I think they're there, you know, to rediscover and to look into, so that we can help. Yeah, it helps us all to grow, and obviously to pass it on to the children. You know, so
yeah.
yeah,
And you know, these conversations, we don't plan them. You
no,
know, I have an idea of things
mm,
that have come to me that I'd like to mention, which, you know, have been beneficial to me,
mm,
or I think might be beneficial to other people, but it's just beautiful how it flows.
mm.
I think if I can share one final thing, it's a
Oh,
very short
please,
poem. I know you like
please.
poetry,
I
Kelvin.
love poetry.
It's a
Yeah.
very short poem,
Mm,
and I think so the poem, maybe if I read it and then I'll just say a few words afterwards. So it's by someone called Ruth Hulbert Hamilton. I'll be honest, I don't really know who she is. But I love this poem. So it goes like this. Cleaning and scrubbing can wait till tomorrow, for babies grow up, we've learnt to our sorrow. So quiet down cobwebs and dust, go to sleep. I'm rocking my baby, and babies don't keep.
mm,
And I think actually, you know, you can even apply that to when your children are a little bit older, not only when they're babies,
mm,
because they just grow so quickly.
mm,
And we need
mm,
to really cherish those moments. And even when they're
mm,
sleeping in your arms, making time to hold them when they're sleeping and, you know, be with them, that's all going to have a positive, you know, imprint on them, even on an emotional and psychological level. They won't necessarily remember it, but it will have a positive imprint.
mm,
So yeah, it can not only apply to babies, and not only to cleaning and dusting, but, you know, anything that you're doing, it can wait till tomorrow, because the children are here now, and they're going to grow up so quickly. So just cherish it, really
mm,
cherish every
mm,
moment that you can,
mm,
with your children.
mm. Yeah. And no, yeah, it's funny you say that because I remember this morning, waking up and stuff and all of that. And, I got into a bit of a conversation with my mum this morning, actually, and stuff and all that. And, I sort of said, from my personal, how I feel, I sort of said, I said that I find myself these days only living for today, more, more, more. I'm not sort of
Mm,
like thinking about what's in the future, you know, and I can't change the past. No, but the past is the past. It's almost like
mm,
living just day by day, you know.
yeah.
It takes a lot, then a lot off of you. So that's just something I wanted to end on as well.
Yes. And
So
there's a quote, I'm just trying to remember it. Now, the now is a gift. That's why it's called the present.
yeah,
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 that's
living in the
quite a
present
famous
moment.
quote. Yeah.
Mm,
I
it
try
does
to as
help.
much as possible,
Yeah.
although we've got some like, trips and events that we're planning for the
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
future.
yeah. I mean,
But
yeah. I mean, that's yeah. I mean, we all have that, like I have to book in like to have guests on or whatever,
yes,
or I'm
yeah,
organising something a couple of months down with Connection Festival or whatever, So
yeah,
yeah, but on the whole, like you're saying, it's a lot more healthier, I believe, to try and live in the present moment as much as you possibly
yes,
can with things, it does
yeah.
help, you
And
know.
actually this time,
Mm,
having this broken ankle and slowing down,
mm,
um, it's really helped me
mm,
to be more present in the now. There's
mm,
times I find when I'm quite good at this, and then other times I'm not. And I find the times when I'm not so great is usually when I have quite a bit of stress and pressure. But at the moment, I don't have a lot of stress and pressure.
mm,
So I'm able to, be more here in the
mm,
now. And
mm,
yeah, and the children actually do really help me with that as well. They do
mm.
sometimes, if I find my mind wandering off, which it does. Everyone has these moments,
Mm.
and then they'll snap me out of it, and I'll think, "Oh, thank you. I'm really glad you brought me back to the now because
Mm,
why was I thinking about that thing I did 5 years ago? What the hell was that about? Like,
yeah.
why was I reliving that in my mind, or why was I thinking about that decision I made?" And sometimes these things just come into your mind, and
Mm,
often the
mm.
children will snap me out of that. And it's like, yep,
Yeah,
thank you. I'm here now. I'm
yeah.
here
Well,
now.
yeah, and that's right because children just they seem to operate more in that present moment sort of
Yeah.
time. They don't operate on what's gone on in the past or what's gone on in the future. I mean, I remember being more like I just used to live in the present moment a lot of my time.
Mm,
Yeah, obviously there were certain things that might come along that would be a bit traumatic, but on the whole, yeah, it was more living in the present moment as a child. Things you just are, you're living in that beautiful world that you're in. It's
mm,
a lot like it's things are so much more simpler. You know.
yes.
So, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I often think it would be wonderful to be a child again just for a day. But actually, I'm really grateful that I am where I am, and I am at
Mm,
the point in my journey where I am. And
mm,
despite difficulties and challenges, I embrace it. I trust the
mm,
journey. Um, so yeah, although I think sometimes, oh, it would be nice, I then think, well, no, that's the past. You've had that. You've had that part of your journey. Now, where are you at now on your journey?
mm. I think again, because you hear about connecting with your inner child, though, and that people can get
Mm,
a bit confused about that. Whereas I sort of have an understanding of that. It's almost reconnecting with that's been lost. But you're an adult,
yeah,
obviously, but you're reconnecting with that very thing that was sort of robbed from you, sort of thing.
it's
And
robbed from you. Yeah, and
it's like finding it's like the true core, really, of yeah. It goes beyond words. I know
yeah,
I
it
know what I've
does.
experienced. So a
Yeah, yeah.
bit difficult
Yeah,
to
our inner
yeah.
child isn't about, yeah, sort of going back and reliving the
Mm,
past, but we all have that inner child, and
for sure,
we all,
yeah.
you know, within us we have
Mm,
different, I don't know the word to use, not versions of ourselves, maybe that's the wrong word to use. But if we don't kind of feed these different parts of our soul,
mm,
then, you know, if we don't feed that inner child and we don't have fun and we don't be silly, then everything becomes so serious,
yeah.
you know, and we almost forget how to have fun and how
Yeah.
to laugh and how to play.
Mm,
And then what are you living for then?
yeah.
If you're not having fun and being silly, and if you're not doing things that fill your heart with joy, then
Mm,
why are you what's life about, you know?
yeah. Yeah. What a beautiful message to end on, you know. And you know, I've really enjoyed the conversation, Chloe. You know, you've
Me
brought
too.
some absolutely beautiful you know, beautiful expressions and words here tonight for our viewers. And one thing I just wanted to do before we wrap things up is to actually speak about Connection Festival, you
Yes.
know, and we'd like to invite you to come to our playground.
Yeah, come
You know,
play.
come and play, you know, and you know, and yeah, you know, it's a time to come together and just to enjoy life, and you know, to you know, get away from being behind the screens and
Yeah.
connecting in the physical, you know, and stuff. So yeah, you know, if you fancy a day out sort of thing, and you want to connect with myself and Chloe, and there's going to be Emma's going to be there, you know, Joss is going to be there as well, because me and obviously Joss are the sort of the main event organizers of it. And there's going to be Ahmed and Jay as well. They've been in talks. We've got someone from Hope Sussex coming down as well. So, and then we've got great entertainment. You know, we're going to, I think it's Robert Hubbard is going to come and play for us. He sort of like does folky sort of stuff, and got the straw man again. We've got an open mic session this time as well. So if people want to come and share poetry, a book reading, or just
Exciting.
share
Yeah.
whatever they feel
Yeah,
they want to share
yeah.
from their heart. So we've got that there, because we want that, you know, we want people to come and to be able to express and to be able to have that time as well. You know, we're there just to facilitate something in the hope that people will come and take something away from it for that day, you know. So yeah, and then obviously we've got Yogi Man finishing it off. He's going to do a sort of a last couple of hours, sort of playing reggae and dub sort of stuff, and that for the last couple of hours. So there you go. So I thought I'd put that in there, and obviously looking forward to you, Chloe, because you're going to be doing your first presentation there. So
Yes,
that's
I
going to be
am.
good.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to
I'm
that, and
excited. I'm
yeah,
really excited for
mm,
that. Yeah.
mm, mm. So yeah,
Yeah, it will be
I'm
on
looking
the
forward to
same
it.
kind of topic. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to you coming and sharing what you're going to be sharing on the day. So, yeah, please do. If you can make it down to the south coast, just outside Chichester, Lavant Memorial Hall Connection Festival, which is going to be May the 27th. Yeah, please do. Please come and
One
join
month
us.
today,
Yeah, and stuff
27th
and
of
that.
April. So yeah,
Yeah,
1 month.
yeah. I mean, I you know, I'm not performing. I'm not going to be doing all that because obviously I've got my problem at the moment with the hernia and stuff, which you know caused me quite a lot of considerable amount of pain. As you know, Chloe, we spoke about that behind the scenes. But you know, at least I'll be there on the day, and I'll make myself relatively comfortable on the day, and stuff and all of that. You know, and like I said, the show must go on. So yeah, that's how I see it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Well,
wanted to burst into song then.
mm,
That song, The Show Must Go On. I can't remember who sings it, but there is a song.
yeah.
I just wanted to burst into song.
Well, we'll get you singing on here one day, Chloe. Oh, what a cool,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. I do love to sing. I do love
Mm,
to sing. I
mm.
it's not really my, you know, my strong point. But I'm always bursting into song
Yeah,
at home.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's part of again the beauty that
Spontaneous
we all have our
singing.
areas that we're better, we you know we're maybe better at than other things. You know, you know that's a great thing as well. You know, we all have our areas. You know, and stuff
Hmm.
like that. There's other you know within the arts, lots of other areas that, I mean, you know, mine obviously DJing, music, you know, that's my thing. But yeah, it's great. We have many beautiful people out there that share in their own unique ways. Again, it's a wonderful thing. And you know, and thank you, you know, thank you for what you do and what you bring here to the channel, Chloe. And I just hope that, you know, our viewers get something out of this conversation tonight. And you know, it's great because we're just sitting here and we're just being us, you know, and that's what it should be about, you know. If people want to do podcasts out there, you know, and think, oh, you know, I'd love to share, I'd love to do a podcast, you know, I'd just say just be you, you know, and just get out, yeah. If you feel that's something you want to do, get out there. But that's the only advice I can give: be you, you know, and everything else just falls into place. Yeah, you know, there's no point in being anything than yourself. So that's about all I can say before we end this podcast for our viewers. So yeah, thank you, Chloe. Thank you to the viewers. And you know, if you've got anything from this conversation that we've done this evening, then please you know, leave comments below for me and Chloe so that we can obviously you know, sharing those comments with you and get back to you. And please, yeah, just like, subscribe, put the thumbs up. Please share with your brothers and sisters out there as well. So yeah, on that
it's been a pleasure as always.
Chloe. Much love to you, and looking forward to catching up with you sometime next week. Much love.
See you soon. Lots of love to everyone.
Yeah, much love.
I know the time will come when we welcome everyone, yeah. Even the young and